Smile, be, chat, join for networking.
Hello everybody, my name is Zoe Bennett and I'm going to talk to you today about through adversity breeds success and a little bit about my story. And really my story starts with a fabulous mentor, and I advocate that everyone finds a mentor in their life. Fortunately, mine was my father. Now, my father was a very community-spirited gentleman and he did absolutely anything to help everyone. Now, I've always been within networking, but I didn't know what it was called because my dad would always help people and do that for free, or he would know a man who'd know a man. And throughout, he did partners where he would collect maybe £5 from people within the community, help them save, and by the end of the year, he'd give all that money back to them so they've got like a substantial amount for Christmas. Now, my father started the first West Indian Caribbean club in Preston in my grandmother's living room, and then it expanded to an actual club called the Jalgo Sports and Social Club, and they bridged the gap with racism within Preston, because many years ago, so far back, it was like in those days it wasn't that nice. So my dad would play cricket matches and have the team behind him and play against the actual police force there, and play darts and dominoes, and it brought the community together fantastically well. He would do the Christmas parties for the children, and I was always growing around it. Now, because of that, my father wasn't around much, but I'm not bitter, because at the end of the day, he was doing something worthwhile. My dad was always schooling me in life lessons and how to make sure I get the best out of life, how to strategize, how to structure things, and most importantly, how to sacrifice in the correct manner. Now, he was very much an advocate of making sure things are put down in the future for yourself to have an easier life. He did not believe in having any credit whatsoever, owing anybody anything. So he taught me that. So I bought my first house when I was in my early, just before 20. And the way in which I managed to pay that off is that I made sure that I sacrificed and budgeted, and I gave myself a £20 a week allowance, and I had a full-time job earning good money, but I had to look at the end game. So by doing that, put myself through university, got my master's in tourism management, and I did good, to the point that I was able to then get a job with the government of a Caribbean island. And it was fantastic because it gave me the opportunity when my dad went over to his homeland to, when I'm on the trips taking the travel agents out, etc., I could then see my father, which was fantastic. He lived between England and Jamaica. He had a 7-bedroomed house, 5 bathrooms, 3 kitchens, and a huge reception and 2 reception areas. Now, what he would do, again, the community thing again, he would let the local churches use the facilities free of charge for their meetings, and the same with the local police. And anyone who came over, from whether it was from Canada, America, Germany, who wanted a wedding in a beautiful place, my dad would let them utilise it, again, free of charge. And he would always make his fantastic fish and chips there. So he loved it. So time went on, and December, I'm going to fast forward all the way to December 2011, after I'd worked for this particular Caribbean tourist board for just over 6 years at the time. I was on annual leave for 2 weeks, and thank goodness. I had a phone call to tell me that my father had been stabbed. So I, obviously frantic, that in itself is just enough for someone to tell you that your father's been stabbed. So I'm thinking, okay, he's alive, you'll get through this, not a problem. And because obviously my dad, well, you don't know, my dad had 11 brothers and sisters, and my mum has 12 brothers and sisters all around the world in different Canada, America, Jamaica, lots in England. And the phone was just going, so there was no way I could use the phone. So the only thing I had was Facebook. So I thought I'd hit it in one hit. And as I went to Facebook and I went to go and write my post, this on-the-ground news, articles to the news station on the Facebook site, mentioned about this 59-year-old man brutally stabbed to death so many times in his villa. And they were saying that this other woman had, her head was part chopped off. They tried to hack her head off, but she survived. And when I read the name, it's like, that's my dad. So I'm typing now, the bastards have killed my father in Jamaica this morning. Someone says, oh, what's happening? I said, the police are slowing the uptake, because a week before, my phone had been robbed and utilised and £2,000 was being run up. And it turned out to be my cousin, my dad's nephew. So my dad made him go to the police station and own up. So there was a statement taken and everything, and he owned up, and they let him go without charging him. A week later, my dad's dead. Anyway, so I got on the next plane the next day to Jamaica, and I was met by the Director General, and she was saying, oh, the Minister of Tourism is really upset because of what you wrote on there, that you used the word Jamaica in the sentence. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, that's like, it's defamed the country. So, okay, and I didn't even think anything of it because, I'm sorry, my dad's just been murdered. So I went, we had to do a long drive up to get to the house where now he'd been murdered. And the police actually handed the house back to me. Bearing in mind, I'm 5 months pregnant at this time. Okay, they handed the house back to me, the exact same state it was in. So now I went into like investigative mode and practical mode. Thank God my dad taught me this. And I bagged up as much blood samples as I could. I took photos of the actual footprints that were going through his blood. I took the photos of all like where you could see he was trying to get himself out of there, etc. And any evidence I could get, I was bagging it up. And I made sure that that came back with me. So I had to as well, that same night, I had to pay a security firm to stand guard on the property because I didn't want the property looted. So the way in which I solved that problem after I put them on there, the next day in my pregnant state, I got absolutely everything, cutlery, pots, microwaves, chairs, and threw everything over the balcony and I burnt the lot because I'd be damned if anyone was walking around my dad's shoes or any of my dad's items. So anyway, eventually I managed after a long hard slog. Now this is literally the week before Christmas, so it was really hard to try and get him identified in time to get his body back before my annual leave ran out. I went to the head office and they said it's a matter of formalities, they can't see why I can't have annual leave off to grieve, and it's when I get back to England, it's just a case of my regional director signing it off for me to have this time off. So before I got back to England, I had to go and identify my dad, and I went to where they were doing the autopsy, and so I identified him, and the way it was like an open-air car park immediately outside the door, and they told me to sit down there, so my back is backed onto where this door is, and you can hear my dad being sawed open, and the smell was awful, and the blood was coming through the door past my feet. It was horrendous. Now, then once they'd finished doing what they did, they put them in this pickup vehicle, and they put me in the vehicle with my dad's body. Now, they didn't lock down the wheels, so as we're going through the streets, as you know, over those bumpy roads, his body's flying backwards and forwards, and it was just horrendous. Eventually, got into the funeral home, and I made plans to get his body back a day earlier than myself because I didn't want to leave him there, and you know, and I wanted to make sure he'd gone. So I paid a funeral home in Preston to do that side of things, and they came down from Preston to go and pick up his body and went back to Preston without his body. They'd only lost my dad's body in Gatwick. So I'm frantically looking around from the hotel where I was at, making these phone calls and everything, trying to find my dad's body. Found it eventually in cargo. I had to pay for the privilege of them coming all the way back down to come and pick him up, and they gave me the bill and I paid that. So, you know, so now whilst I was in Jamaica before I came back, the people downstairs, because my dad rented the bottom part out, was telling me exactly what my dad was screaming and shouting for the last 28 minutes of his life. He was begging them, and he said that one of the guys' names, Clifton, stop stabbing me, you're killing me. And there was lots of things that were said. So I encouraged that person to go to the police because they just wouldn't do it. Before I left, I made sure that I had investigators looking for the perpetrators, because they told me it was obviously more than one person that was doing it. So I came back to England. The day I landed in England, the law is that if you bring a body back, you have to go and re-identify it in England. So I had an email now from my boss over in England saying, where are you? When are you coming back to work? Bearing in mind, I was still on annual leave. I wasn't finished till the following day. So I sent a message back saying, I'm with the police, identified my dad's body. Next thing I got an email and a letter was sent that you're suspended and you're not allowed to have any time off at all. And because I used the word Jamaica in the sentence. So the following, I got hold of my union boss. He said to me, don't worry about it because the funeral was only in a few days. And in that letter, they said I had to go down to London for this, disciplinary meeting. And that was the day after the funeral. And if I didn't turn up, blah, 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 you know, the threats in there. So my union boss handled it and said that on no uncertain terms is she coming down and she's going to be off sick because she's not well because of this and she's pregnant. Next thing, the next day it went in the Daily Mail and it just blew up everywhere. There was loads of political comments online. Everything now that went out there, I was charged through this Caribbean Tourist Board with all these of disclosure now to the press and etc. Now I got all the statements from every single press that was out there who wrote any articles to say that I was not the source, and I got that, gave that to them, and they wouldn't accept it. Okay. They made me go to occupational health a week before I was due to give birth to see if I was fit for work. When I was off of maternity, they would not leave me alone, just constant barrage of emails from the solicitors. It was just horrendous. But bearing in mind, in the meantime, now I got back into England on the 2nd of January. 3rd of January was this letter to say you can't have time off. But I just identified my dad's body again, and the funeral was just a few days later. Then a few weeks after that, one of the murderers called me and started taunting me about what they did to my dad, etc., blah, blah, blah. Luckily, I recorded it, and I got that through relentlessly, got it sent back via Interpol. The police, my local police were fantastic. They got someone from Scotland Yard to come up and authenticate it so that it wasn't tampered with, and that went back as evidence over there. They bagged up all this stuff that I brought back from Jamaica. They authenticated all that, and that all went back. Anyway, so through the investigations, we found them twice over. But before we found them, I gave them the telephone number there that called me off, didn't trace it. 2 weeks later, still didn't trace it, then the phone went off. Then I found them and still nothing. So I had to go through soccer at the time, undercover police, and they actually sent someone out and eventually picked them up. They let two of the other ones go, and they literally just kept one because he was my dad's nephew. You know, so it's just a family thing. So eventually, I was getting death threats anyway. Then I was told if I stepped foot in Jamaica, they're going to send a gunman after me, blah, blah, blah. And this was all authenticated again from the Foreign Office asked for this evidence. The local police gave it to them. They tried to trace where it came from. It was an unknown IP address. Who has the ability to have an unknown IP address, you know? So it just goes to show. So I persevered. Now I've got this employment tribunal case going. I've got this murder trial going at the same time. Plus being pregnant, just giving birth, you know, and then having kidney problems. Woohoo! You know, just chuck it all on there. It's okay. I can manage it because I wasn't going to be bullied and pushed down. That's not going to happen to me, you know, because my dad taught me better than that. So what happened was this went on for years. The trial started 7 times, postponed 7 times, to the point now where my local MP got involved because I was told that now that I had to go over there to testify in the court that that was my dad that had been murdered. That's just a loophole. If you don't do that, you can't go forward. So, and they knew I was having death threats anyway. So I had an official letter from the Foreign Office on the 23rd of December 2014. So obviously I knew that if I stepped foot there, I'm going to die. So I prepared myself for my death, for saying goodbye to everybody over Christmas, knowing it's going to be my last Christmas. And my MP stepped in and said, no, that's not going to happen. There's got to be a way around it. He was amazing. The Foreign Office sent me a letter saying there's no such thing as video conferencing. It hasn't come in yet. But then over the Christmas, when I'm preparing myself, I was researching online and found an article on the ukgov.uk site celebrating the fact that a few months before, the video conferencing existed. So all of a sudden now my MP got involved, things switched because they'd made a mistake, huge mistake. So in the end, I didn't have to go over and testify. The lead investigating officer identified his body. And in May 2015, one of the murderers was convicted to 40 years to life without parole. So yes, but then October 2014, I won the employment tribunal on all counts. So yes. So now, my company now is training personified. Now, the reason why it's training personified, because I think you need to treat people nicely and genuinely treat people nicely. So what I believe that if you teach the adults to be nice to one another, it trickles down to the youngsters. That's just natural. You know, I do motivational speaking as well, and I do a lot of work with apprentices on employability, goal setting, etc. And structure, you know, because it's all about that, and it's all about doing what you can do using your passion. People always make a mistake by asking young people, what do you want to do? It shouldn't be about what job, because they're not in that mindset. What is your passion? Work on what your passion is first. Everything else will follow this, then less pressure. And then what I do in those scenarios, I create mini power teams. So anybody who's got a similarity of their passion, I get them to be able to then work with one another, and then they can buzz off each other instead of feeling like an outcast with that other individual. For me, I try and do it based on the teachings of a good man. And my dad would always say, never let your left hand know what your right hand's doing. Don't interrupt somebody. As soon as you interrupt them, you are wrong. Even if you're right, you're wrong, because you do not know what that person was going to say. They could be offering you some fantastic opportunity, but you've cut it short because you've interrupted them. So the key is to literally just take stock, don't hurry anything, yeah? Observe what's going on around you and literally structure it so it works for you. And not just works for you, don't sideline everybody else just so you can get ahead. Because at the end of the day, you have to stand alone and look in that mirror and be proud of yourself. And you can say it to the world out there, yeah, I'm proud of myself, I've got this, I've got Lexus, I've got whatever, Jaguar. But when you're alone, you're like, really, there's nobody there supporting me genuinely. You know, people trying to jump on my back to get up to where I'm going to. You don't want that. You just want to be happy. I don't focus on money in my business. Obviously, everyone has to look at making sure they're breaking even, etc. But you focus on your happiness first, and trust me, the rest will follow. You know, I've just started, well, I'm the founder of the Midlands Business and Community Charity Awards, because I want to recognise, value unsung heroes in both the business world and the community world. People do this all the time. Oh, yeah, they've done a good job. But they don't put the money where their mouth is and make it happen and reward them. I'm going to do it. I've got nothing to lose. There's nothing you can't do. And never let any mundane thing halt your growth. And put things in perspective. Really, was it worth complaining about that? It could be a whole lot worse. Or, for instance, something's happened and you're so upset, and you want to react. If it's that important, you'll react tomorrow. So just wait till tomorrow. By that time, half the time, you forget what it is you're complaining about, you know? So all I'm trying to say is just use your life and structure it and strategize. And don't think about the little battles. Think about the war, your personal war, which is life enjoyment, you know? All I can say is try and be a mentor to people and try and treat people the way you would like to be treated, genuinely treated. So that's my story, and I'm Zoe Bennett.
Smile, be chat, join for networking.